Some people enter your life by pure chance, and you have no idea that meeting them will change everything. That's how it was when I first saw Marilyn, a small woman walking 3 massive Bernese mountain dogs. She looked like the embodiment of calm confidence. The sight of her stopped me in my tracks. There was something magnetic about the way she handled those dogs, small but utterly in control. I fell in love before I even knew her name. We started talking casually in the park. She was kind, intelligent, and quick to smile, yet always a bit guarded, like someone who had learned not to trust too easily. Eventually, I asked her out. Our connection deepened, but even as months passed, there was always a wall around her. She rarely spoke about her past, and when I gently asked about her home life, she changed the subject. Half a year later, I finally gave her an ultimatum, not out of anger but confusion. I told her that if we were truly serious, I needed to know more about her world. To my surprise, she agreed. The following weekend, she drove me to her home on the outskirts of town, a small cozy house hidden behind tall trees, guarded by 3 enormous dogs. They watched me cautiously, but didn't bark. For a while, everything seemed normal. We spent evenings cooking together, watching movies, playing with the dogs. But within days, strange things began to happen. At night, the dogs would suddenly wake, growling at empty corners. Around 3 in the morning, they would bark violently at nothing. I started waking up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. The air often carried a faint smell of sweat, cheap deodorant, and cigarette smoke, none of which either of us used. I tried to dismiss it as imagination or stress, but the feeling that someone else was in that house grew impossible to ignore. Finally, I asked Marilyn if she noticed anything. She didn't seem surprised. In a calm, resigned voice, she told me that a man's spirit had followed her for years, moving wherever she went. "He's not evil," she said softly. "He just doesn't know how to leave." I wanted to believe her, though a part of me feared she was hiding something else, maybe an abusive ex, maybe a stalker. Still, I loved her enough to stay. Weeks passed. Then one evening, she confessed that she'd been seeing a strange woman, short, wearing glasses and a hat, driving a white Honda. The woman seemed to appear everywhere, near her gym, outside her work, parked across from her house. That was when I knew I had to tell her about Savannah. Savannah had once been my girlfriend, years before I met Marilyn. At first, she was sweet and caring, maybe a little intense. But within months, her affection turned obsessive. She tracked my every move, followed me to work, and even installed hidden recorders in her apartment. When I finally broke up with her, she called and texted me non-stop, appeared at my office, and begged for another chance. I had to threaten her with a restraining order before she finally disappeared. Later, I saw what I thought were her social media posts. New boyfriend, new city, a perfect life. I believed she'd moved on. I was wrong. When Marilyn described the woman in the white car, my stomach dropped. Everything, the build, the way she moved, matched Savannah. But there was something else too. Savannah was disguising herself. She wore wigs, hats, and plain clothes to look older and blend in. I reached out to an old friend who knew her. What he told me made my blood run cold. Savannah hadn't moved out of state. She was still nearby, living with her parents. She had dropped out of medical school, didn't have a husband or kids, and apparently didn't have any active social media accounts. The new life I saw online was fake. It dawned on me that Savannah had never truly left. She'd been following me all along, watching from a distance, pretending to be someone else. Now that I had someone new, someone she could see as replacing her, she was spiraling again. Marilyn and I installed cameras around the house. For days we caught nothing unusual, until one camera accidentally fell behind the couch, facing the backyard. That night, we received a motion alert. On the screen, a teenage boy wandered across the yard. Nothing alarming, until it happened again the next night around 3 a.m. I bolted out of bed, rushing to the living room with the dogs barking behind me. Through the dim light, I caught the shape of a tall young man near the back door. The dogs went crazy, not at him, but at something outside. When I checked the footage, I saw the same boy walking away into the darkness. Then I heard Marilyn scream. I ran back to the bedroom and found her staring at the window. The screen had been cut cleanly, and the blinds were swaying on a still night. "Someone tried to grab me," she whispered, shaking. That was when I realized the boy in the video wasn't a boy at all. The movements, the size, it all matched Savannah. She had disguised herself as a teenage male to stalk us unnoticed. We took the footage to the police, but they said it wasn't enough proof to identify her. Still, after that night, everything stopped. The haunting, the stalker, the sounds, silence. For the first time in months, we slept peacefully. Months passed and life finally felt normal again. Marilyn and I grew closer than ever. I proposed, and she said yes. We moved in together, shared quiet mornings with coffee and lazy nights tangled up with her 3 loyal dogs at our feet. For a while, we were truly happy. But then the haunting started again. At first it was subtle, creaking floors, doors shutting on their own. Then came the whispers, the cold drafts, and the reflection of a man's silhouette in mirrors and windows. I tried to tell myself it was stress, imagination, anything but real. Yet Marilyn insisted it was her protector, the same male presence that had followed her for years. It didn't stop there. Savannah returned too. We began noticing different cars parked near the house, sometimes a red sedan, other times a dark SUV. The drivers were always hard to see, always watching. She'd gained weight, changed her hair, and even wore lifts to appear taller, but deep down we both knew it was her. We tried everything, changing locks, adding security cameras, even staying at hotels, but Savannah always seemed to find us. Then, just as suddenly, she vanished again. One night, in the middle of that uneasy calm, every light and electronic device in our bedroom flickered on at once. I jolted awake to see a man's shadow standing in the doorway, tall, young, rugged. For the first time, I saw him clearly. Marilyn gasped beside me, tears streaming down her face. "Casey," she whispered. Before I could move, the bedroom door creaked open. A dark figure stepped in, small, tense, holding something metallic. I caught the glint of a gun barrel. I froze, but before a shot could be fired, the male spirit lunged forward, grappling with the intruder. The 2 figures clashed violently, crashing into the hall. I chased after them, my heart hammering. In the living room, glass shattered. I saw Savannah, pale, disheveled, wild-eyed, struggling against the spirit's invisible grip. For a split second, I pitied her. Whatever she'd become, this wasn't the life she'd wanted. She slipped free, stumbled through the broken window, and disappeared into the night. I turned back just in time to see the spirit's face. Relief, exhaustion, love, all flickered across it. Then Marilyn appeared beside me, sobbing. The spirit met her gaze, nodded once, and faded into the air like smoke. Marilyn collapsed into my arms, whispering his name over and over. Casey. He was her older brother, who had died in a snowboarding accident when she was a teenager. The haunting, it turned out, had been her brother keeping his promise to protect her. After that night, everything finally stopped. Savannah vanished completely. The police couldn't find her, but we weren't afraid anymore. Marilyn and I both knew that somewhere, somehow, Casey was still watching and guarding us.